carrying guilt that is not yours. That many of the things you blame yourself every day are not really your responsibility. Today, I will show you the 7 lighter signs that you are carrying a weight that should not be on your shoulders. Have you ever caught yourself blaming yourself for things other people did? Or feeling responsible for solving problems that were not even created by you? If the answer is yes, then you need to watch this video until the end, because I will teach you how to identify when you are taking on the guilt of others, and more importantly, how to get rid of this weight. The truth is that carrying guilt that is not ours is one of the greatest thieves of our inner peace. This happens more than you imagine, and may be sabotaging your happiness without you or realize. Many people spend years until decades carrying guilt that belonged to other people, and this ends up harming their self-esteem, their relationships, and their quality of life. But here is what I discovered after years studying this subject. There are very clear signs that show when you are assuming responsibilities that are not yours. And when you learn to recognize these signs, your life changes completely. You will sleep better, relate better to people, and especially, you will recover your inner peace. Stay with me until the end, because I will reveal you the 7th sign, which is the most dangerous of all, and that most people don't even think they are doing. This sign may be destroying your life without you or realize. Sign 1. You apologize for everything, even when you did nothing wrong. The first sign that you are carrying guilt is not yours is when you get apologizing for everything, even when you did nothing wrong. This solves the problem of emotional insecurity that many people carry, creating a false feeling that by apologizing, you are maintaining peace. I will give you a practical example. Imagine that you are in a family meeting and your cousin arrives late and in a bad mood. He begins to complain about traffic and work. Even without having anything to do with his problems, you catch yourself saying, "Sorry, maybe we should have marked later," or "Excuse, I didn't think it would be hard to get here." You are taking responsibility for something that has nothing to do with you. Another common example is when someone is upset for any reason, and you automatically assume it was something you did. You start to apologize and try to find out what you did wrong, even when the person's problem has absolutely nothing to do with you. To apply this in practice, start paying attention to your words. Every time you apologize, stop a second and ask yourself, "I really did something wrong here?" If the answer is no, then don't sorry. Simply say something like, "I understand you're upset," or "I hope things get better for you." The direct benefits of this change are huge. You will stop taking responsibilities that are not yours, yourself. Esteem will improve, and people will start to respect you more. When you stop apologizing for everything, you show that you know your value and that you do not accept to carry guilt that is not yours. Signal 2. You feel responsible for the feelings of others. The second sign is when you feel responsible for other people's feelings. This solves the problem of emotional codependency, where you believe it is your duty to do everyone around you feel good all the time. I will give you an example that happens a lot. Your adult daughter is going through a difficult divorce, and you feel guilty that she is suffering. You keep thinking, "If I had been a better father, she would know how to choose men better," or "If I had given more advice, it wouldn't have happened." You are taking responsibility for decisions she has made as an adult. Another example is when a friend is experiencing financial difficulties, and you are guilty that you cannot help anymore. You lose sleep thinking about his problems, as if it was your obligation to solve everyone's life. You even deprive yourself of some things to try to help, even when it harms your own situation. To apply this in practice, always remember, you can offer support, advice, and affection, but you cannot control the choices and feelings of others. When someone close to you is going through difficulties, ask yourself, is this something I can really control? If the answer is no, then focus your energy to offer support, not to feel guilty. the direct benefits of this change are liberators. You will stop losing emotional energy to things you can't control. Your relationships will be healthier, and you will be able to help people more effectively. When you stop taking responsibility for the feelings of others, you can be a real support, not a person who also needs help. Sign 3. You always assume you are guilty when there are conflicts. The third sign that you are carrying guilt is not yours is when you automatically assume you are guilty whenever there is a conflict. This solves the problem of the need to keep peace at any cost, but ends up creating a harmful pattern where you always get the blame. Let me give you a practical example. You are at home with your family and arise a discussion between your brother and your sister-in-law. Even without having anything to do with the subject, you automatically ask yourself, what did I do to cause it? Or, how can I solve this situation? You assume that you are somehow responsible for the fight between them. Another common example is at work. When there is a project problem, even if you have done your part correctly, you immediately assume that it must have been something you did wrong. You are analyzing every detail, looking for where you made a mistake, even when the problem was caused by other people or external factors. To apply this in practice when a conflict arises, pause and analyze it objectively. What exactly was my participation in this situation? Write down the facts, not feelings. If you did nothing wrong, do not take the blame. If you did something wrong, take only the part that is really your responsibility. The direct benefits of this change are transformative. You will stop being the emotional punching bag of family or work. Your self-esteem will improve significantly, and you will be able to resolve conflicts more fairly. When you stop assuming guilt automatically, you force people to assume your own responsibilities. Now, before continuing, I want to ask you a favor. If this video is helping you understand these signs better, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so as not to lose the next videos. And tell me in the comments where you are watching. I always answer you. Your participation is very important to me. Signal 4. You try to control things that are out of reach. The fourth signal is when you try to control things that are completely out of your reach and feel guilty when you can't. This solves the problem of anxiety of wanting everything to work out, but ends up creating a cycle of unnecessary frustration and guilt. I will give you a very common example. You have a grandson who is making bad choices in life, using drugs, or getting involved with dangerous people. You feel guilty of not being able to save you and keep thinking, if I talk to him more, if I give more advice, if I'm more rigid, it will change. You assume responsibility for changes that only he can make. Another example is when you excessively care about other people's health. You remind you of your wife from taking the medicines, your son to eat better, your sister to exercise. When they do not follow your advice and get sick, you feel guilty, as if it were your obligation to control everyone's health habits. To apply this in practice, make a list of things you can control and the things you can't. In the things you can control, put your own actions, your own words, your own choices. In things you can't control, put others' choices, the reactions of others, the results that depend on other people. The direct benefits of this change are immense. You will stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable. Your anxiety will decrease dramatically, and you will be able to focus on what really matters. When you stop trying to control others, you gain more control over your own life and your own emotions. Sign 5. You sacrifice yourself too much. The fifth sign that you are carrying guilt is not yours is when you sacrifice yourself too much for others and feel guilty when you can't do everything people expect from you. This solves the problem of the need to be loved and accepted, but ends up creating a harmful dynamic where you always give more than you receive. Let me give you a practical example. You are retired, and your adult children always resort to you to solve financial problems. You use your retirement to help, even when that means you have to give up things important to you. When you cannot help, or when you decide to say no, you feel terribly guilty. Another common example is when you are always the person who organizes family meetings, cleans the house after visits, cooks for everyone. You do it all and still feel guilty when things don't go perfect or when someone complains about something. You assume responsibility for everyone's happiness. To apply this in practice, start setting healthy limits. When someone asks for your help, I pause and ask yourself, is this something I can do without harming myself? And does this person really need my help, or can they solve alone? If helping it will hurt you, or if the person can solve alone, it is okay to say no. The direct benefits of this change are liberators. You will stop feeling used by people, yourself. Esteem will improve, and you will teach others to be more independent. When you stop sacrificing yourself too much, you show that you value yourself and expect to be treated with respect. Sign 6. You revive past mistakes constantly. The 6th sign is when you relive past errors constantly and feel guilty of things that have been resolved or not even your responsibility from the beginning. This solves the problem of the need to be perfect, but ends up creating a cycle of guilt that never ends. I'll give you an example that happens a lot. You remember a discussion you had with your spouse 10 years ago where you said something you shouldn't have said. Even if you have already talked about it and resolved at the time, you still feel guilty and think, if I hadn't said that, maybe things were different today. You are taking responsibility for changes that may have happened for 1,000 other reasons. Another common example is when you blame yourself for decisions you made in the past based on the information you had at the time. For example, you have chosen medical treatment for a relative who did not work, even though he consulted doctors and made the best decision at that time. You blame yourself for the result, even though you know you did your best. To apply this in practice, when a mistake of the past comes to your mind, ask yourself, what can I do about it today? If the answer is nothing, then let go. If you can still do something to correct or improve the situation, do it. But if it has passed, if it has already been resolved, leave it in the past where it belongs. The direct benefits of this change are transformative. You will stop wasting mental energy with things that can no longer change. Your anxiety will decrease significantly, and you will be able to make the most of the gift. When you stop reviving past mistakes, you gain mental space to create a better future. Sign 7. You accept criticism that are not true. The 7th and last sign, which is the most dangerous of all, is when you accept criticism that are not true and feel guilty about things you haven't even done. This solves the problem of the need to avoid conflict, but ends up destroying yourself, esteem, and creating a distorted image of who you really are. I'll give you a very serious example. Someone in your family accuses you of being selfish because you decided not to lend money you didn't have. Even knowing that you always helped when you could, and this time you really couldn't afford it, you accept the criticism and feel guilty. You start to wonder, am I really selfish? And assumes a guilt that is not yours. Another devastating example is when someone blames you for a problem that happened long before you are involved in the situation. For example, a person blames you for a family financial problem, even if this problem started before you are born. You accept guilt and feel responsible for solving something other people have created. To apply this in practice, when someone criticizes you, pauses and analyzing, is this criticism based on facts or feelings? If it is based on facts, consider if there is something you can improve. If it is based only on feelings or false information, do not accept the criticism. You can say something like, I understand you're upset, but I don't agree with this assessment of me. The direct benefits of this change are vital to your mental health. You will protect yourself, esteem, stop accepting guilt that is not yours, and will teach people to treat you with respect. When you stop accepting false criticism, you strengthen your identity and your trust. Now you know the 7 signs that you are carrying guilt that is not yours. Remember, recognizing these signs is the first step to freeing yourself from this unnecessary weight. You deserve to live in peace without carrying guilt that belongs to other people. Each of these signs may be sabotaging your happiness quietly. But now that you know how to identify them, you have the power to change this situation. Start paying attention today to these standards in your life. Your inner peace is too precious to be wasted with guilt that is not yours. You have the right to live free from this weight and to be responsible for only the things that really are your responsibility. Tell me in the comments, which of these signs did you most identify? And don't forget to share this video with someone who also needs to listen to this message. Together, we can help more people break free from guilt that is not yours.